time for our daily lectionary reading for Wednesday, October 6th. Okay, it's actually past time. It's like 11:39. But I have a Wednesday morning thing. Today is our last day in Psalm 55, 1 to 15. We're still in Job until the 20th, I think. So we have 2 full weeks left in Job. Job 15, 1 to 35. And in our New Testament today is Matthew 5, 27 to 36. And that'll be familiar to a lot of people. So Psalm 55 is our psalm with a complaint about a friend's treachery, which again, they don't tell us which friend. Give ear to my prayer, O God. Do not hide yourself from my supplication. Attend to me and answer me. I am troubled in my complaint. I am distraught by the noise of the enemy because of the clamor of the wicked, for they bring trouble upon me, and in anger they cherish enmity against me. My heart is in anguish within me, and the terrors of death have fallen upon me. Fear and trembling come upon me, and horror overwhelms me. And I say, oh, that I had wings like a dove. I would fly away and be at rest. Truly, I would flee far away. I would lodge in the wilderness. I would hurry to find a shelter for myself from the raging wind and tempest. Confuse, O Lord, confound their speech, for I see violence and strife in the city. Day and night they go around it on its walls, and iniquity and troubles are within it. Ruin is in its midst. Oppression and fraud do not depart from its marketplace. It is not enemies who taunt me. I could bear that. It is not adversaries who deal insolent with me. I could hide from them. But it is you, my equal, my companion, my familiar friend, with whom I kept pleasant company. We walked in the house of God with a throng. Let death come upon them. Let them go down alive to Sheol, for evil is in their homes and in their hearts. I don't know. We've been 3 days in this psalm, and I don't know that I've mentioned Sheol. The ancient Israelite belief, the Jewish belief, was that Sheol was where the dead go. You notice I just said the dead, not the evil dead or those who are bad. It was the dead. They all go to Sheol. And in their cosmology, that was underground. Remember, their cosmology is the world's flat. There's a hard dome over it. And Sheol underneath. And above the dome, above that dome is the heavens. The dome itself is one heaven. Yeah. Anyway, Sheol, where the dead go. This is the very basis. There's quite the metamorphosis in beliefs about what happened after you die, just while reading the Bible. And there's a lot that we Protestants, in particular, miss because we have what we call the intertestamental period. We have 400 or so years between the writing of the last book of the Old Testament and the events of the New Testament. The time of Christ. We've got about 400 years there. If you look at some Bibles, see on here it says with Apocrypha. Can you see that? Let me get by the camera. The Apocrypha are books that were written in that intertestamental period. They are included in the Catholic Bible, and in some other versions they will have it, like the NRSV that I use. My personal one has the Apocrypha in it, and that has books from that time period. Because there's a growth in a change in a number of aspects. Most dramatically is what Messiah was all about, but also the afterlife. What happens after we die? The idea of heaven and hell, when you read the Old Testament, they're really not there. Right? It's you when you're dead, you go to Sheol. The way you had eternal life was passing along your name and your line, your lineage. It wasn't about you personally living forever. It was your family name kind of thing. And again, like I said, the dead go to Sheol. And then when you get into the New Testament, you've got something different. And we miss a lot with that intertestamental. That shows some of that change, that growth. Because a lot happened in Jewish thought and theology actually from the exile on. The exile changed a lot of things. It changed. They had to rethink their whole faith system with the exile. If you listen to my sermon about Job the other week, or this past Sunday, I've been mentioning it since we've started. Job came up in the daily lectionaries. There are many scholars who think the book of Job is a response to the exile, to the Jews saying, what did we do wrong? Why is all this bad stuff happening to us? Because at that time they still had a very prevalent belief of reward and punishment based upon your actions, your individual actions. So if you are prosperous, that means God was blessing you. You did good things. And if bad things happened to you, it's because you sinned. So you had done something wrong. They also believe they could be passed down through generations. If you recall the story of Jesus and the blind man, and the disciples asked him, who sinned, him or his parents? Because the belief was that if I sinned, my children could pay that price. Well, that's what the book of Job is really all about, is exploring that. Which is a great segue into our Job section. We have the book of Job. You have the introduction and conclusion, which are different. They're prose, and the rest of it is all poetry. You've got Job lamenting the day of his birth, Job lashing out at God. You've got his three friends who show up. They show up to sit shiva with him. They sit for 7 days, but then they start basically telling him all the different ways he must have done wrong. They're exploring that theology of these are all the different things that can get you punished. Bad things happen because of all these things you might have done. So the friends arguing with Job are the theological arguments of the day about what is essentially what we call today the prosperity gospel. So when we read Job and we read how the three friends respond to him, that's what they're doing, is they're exploring those theological concepts of the day. All right, Then Eliphaz the Temanite answered, should the wise answer with windy knowledge and fill themselves up with the east wind? Should they argue in unprofitable talk or in words in which they can do no good? But you are doing away with the fear of God and hindering meditation before God. For your iniquity teaches your mouth, and you choose the tongue of the crafty. Your own mouth condemns you, not I. Your own lips testify against you. Because Job is saying, I've done nothing wrong. Blameless and upright, remember? Are you the firstborn of the human race? Were you brought forth before the hills? Have you listened in the counsel of God? And do you limit wisdom to yourself? What do you know that we do not know? What do you understand that is not clear to us? The gray-haired and the aged are on our side, those older than your father. Are the consolations of God too small for you, or the word that deals gently with you? So why does your heart carry you away, and why do your eyes flash, so that you turn your spirits against God and let such words out of your mouth? What are mortals that they can be clean, or those born of woman that they can be righteous? God puts no trust even in his holy ones, and the heavens are not clean in his sight. How much less one who is abominable and corrupt, one who drinks iniquity like water? I will show you, listen to me. What I have seen I will declare, what sages have told, and their ancestors have not hidden. To whom alone the land was given, and no stranger passed among them. The wicked writhe in pain all their days, through all the years that are laid up for the ruthless. Terrifying sounds are in their ears. In prosperity, the destroyer will come upon them. They despair of returning from darkness, and they are destined for the sword. They wander abroad for bread, saying, "Where is it?" And they know that a day of darkness is ready at hand. Distress and anguish terrify them. They prevail against them like a king prepared for battle. Because they stretched out their hands against God and bid defiance to the Almighty, running stubbornly against him with a thick-bossed shield, because they have covered their faces with their fat and gathered fat upon their loins, and will live in desolate cities, houses no one should inhabit, houses destined to become heaps of ruin. They will not be rich, and their wealth will not endure, nor will they strike root in the earth. They will not escape from darkness. The flame will dry up their shoots, and their blossoms will be swept away by the wind. Let them not trust in emptiness, deceiving themselves, for emptiness will be their recompense. It will be paid in full before their time, and their branch will not be green. They will shake off their unripe grape like the vine, and cast off their blossoms like the olive tree. For the company of the godless is barren, and fire consumes the tents of bribery. They conceive mischief and bring forth evil, and their hearts prepare deceit. All right, let's look at Matthew 5:27 to 36. This is kind of our extension from yesterday. Give me just a second, because we're in the Beatitudes. So yesterday we talked about loving your enemies. Oh, yeah, chapter 5. Here we go. Concerning adultery. Yesterday we talked about concerning anger. No, we didn't. What did we talk about yesterday, guys? Oh, we were in Corinthians. That's right. We were in Corinthians talking about marriage. To the married I give this command. That's right. Never mind. Paul was talking about whether or not to get married in Corinthians, and that it was better if they were single to stay single, but if they couldn't control themselves, that they should be married, keeping in mind that they thought Jesus was going to return any day now. I know we say he could return any day. They fully expected, before this generation passes away, he'll come back. So it's not an any day. He's coming right now. Anyway, that's Corinthians. We're in Matthew. You have heard it said, "You shall not commit adultery." But I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to sin, tear it out and throw it away, for it is better to lose one of your members than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And there's a footnote on here. And this is one that even, I love the NRSV translation, but even what they're saying is hell is the Greek Gehenna, which is the translation of the Valley of Hinnom, which is a valley on the outskirt edge of Jerusalem that was known, if you are a regular viewer of these, you know this, I've talked about it. The Valley of Hinnom, Gehenna, was known to be where the Jews and the Gentiles around would commit human sacrifice. They would offer sacrifices to Molech and Chemosh in particular, were the two Canaanite gods who demanded human sacrifice. And they would sacrifice and burn their bodies. And so it became known as cursed. And they would talk about the flame that never dies, because these were the flames that consumed the human sacrifices. And I was just talking about how our view of the afterlife has changed. Hell is not a Jewish concept particularly. It's not a Jewish word. But they're talking Gehenna, which is, do they mean literally thrown into that valley over there? No, it's symbolic language. It's a metaphor. But I don't like when they translate Gehenna as hell, because they're getting this is where you're getting, they call it syncretism, where you bring other things into your religion, and that's really what's going on in the New Testament. We see a lot of that. We see there were things that were brought in from Zoroastrianism in Persia during the exile. There are things that are brought in from Greek. Any mention of Hades in the New Testament is Greek. They're bringing that in from Greek culture and the Greek view of the afterlife. So these things have creeped in and caused the theology to change and adapt. All right, so that's my grumble when they translate Gehenna as hell. It should be Gehenna. And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. For it is better to you to lose one of your members than for your whole body to go into Gehenna. It was also said that whoever divorces his wife, let him give her a certificate of divorce. But I say to you that anyone who divorces his wife, except in the grounds of unchastity, causes her to commit adultery, and whoever marries a divorced woman commits adultery. Again, you have heard it said that to those of the ancient times, you shall not swear falsely, but carry out the vows you have made to the Lord. But I say to you, do not swear at all, either by heaven, for it is the throne of God, or by earth, for it is his footstool, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. And do not swear by your head, for you cannot make one hair black or white. This part of the Sermon on the Mount, we've got a lot of these, you have heard it said, but I say. It's Jesus reinterpreting the Old Testament, essentially. It is him showing his authority. The Hebrew term is smika. And my Hebrew pronunciation is awful. Just forgive me if you know Hebrew and you're sitting there cringing when I say things. But the smika is the authority. We would consider it kind of ordination today. That there were rabbis, and then there were rabbis. Your average rabbi did not really offer unique interpretations, new interpretations of the Scripture. They would typically have been following these well-known rabbis and their school of thought. Two of the big ones in the century leading up to Christ were Gamaliel and Hillel. I think it's Gamaliel. Who had Gamaliel had a much more conservative approach, you might say, whereas Hillel was known for a more liberal approach, a looser approach to how to interpret and apply the Scriptures. So Gamaliel was probably a little more Pharisaical and more rules, a little more rigid in his thinking, whereas Hillel was known to be a little looser in his interpretation. He's the one that, when asked to teach someone the Torah while they were standing on one foot, said, do not do unto your neighbor which is hateful to you. The rest is commentary. Go and study. So that's that. But they were well known enough and respected enough that they had the smika to offer new interpretations. So here's Jesus coming along, and he's claiming he's using that smika, that authority, to provide entirely new outlooks on the Old Testament laws. What he's saying here in all three of these really is, and throughout you have heard it said, but I say, is the intent is what matters. It's not the literal law. Just because you didn't literally kill someone didn't mean you didn't commit sin by having the anger and the thoughts about it. Just because you didn't actually sleep with that woman doesn't mean that in your heart you didn't sin because you had the thought, you lusted in your heart. Even if you didn't act on it, that's still a sin. Those of us of a certain age remember when Jimmy Carter was president, but he was famously kind of derided for talking about because he had lusted in his heart. But he considered that a sin. And that's really what Jesus is saying here. Is it's the intent that matters, not necessarily the act itself. You can sin just by thinking of the act, not by actually doing it. And I've gotten preachy enough for one morning. We're almost 20 minutes in. I want to thank you for sticking with it, and I will see you later, guys.